one of the things that I notice is, you know, as Molly was saying, is like when we think that we're separate from nature, it really is, it's so much harder to have an intelligent response, right? Like when we cut ourselves, our hand knows what to do to heal that wound, because we are intelligent healing bodies, right? And our earth is also an intelligent healing body, and we are part of that. And oftentimes we think like humans are the intelligent beings, but this little talk is about the intelligence of nature and how to tap into it, really. Okay, so let's see. This is a picture of a slime mold. And on the left is like a clump of cells of slime mold. And this is a map of Tokyo. And the little white spots are pieces of oatmeal that the slime mold really likes. And they're major like suburbs outside of Tokyo. And the slime mold is in Tokyo. And so after 26 hours, the slime mold figured out the most spatially efficient routes to connect all of these cities. And so, in fact, now people who look at like planning of like city infrastructure are looking to slime molds to help solve these complicated spatial problems. But slime molds don't have brains. Like they can function as little cells or they can function as colonies, and they're actually quite smart. But we never think about that because we have an idea of what intelligence is. So we're gonna use this definition of intelligence for the next few minutes, which is the ability to sense one's environment, to process and integrate the sensory perceptions, and decide how to behave. So that's a definition of intelligence that people put forward from who study the intelligence of plants. And we're going to talk about a little bit of plant intelligence because I'm a botanist and a deep ecologist, and I love this stuff. And I love learning about how nature is connected in a very intelligent way, because it really makes me understand how I'm connected to all of this. And it makes me feel less separate. So then when I act, I can try to tap into this collective wisdom. So this is a picture of a caterpillar chomping a leaf. And hey, Molly, would you mind giving me like a 5-minute warning? Because I don't see my screen that well because I'm doing this. And can you do that? Great. Okay. So there's a caterpillar chomping on a leaf. And it turns out that leaves, that plants, they can hear the sound of the caterpillar chomping. If you play the sound of a caterpillar chomping to a leaf, and this was an experiment done, I think on Arabis, or I forget which plant. There was no caterpillar, it was just the sound, and the plant upped its defensive chemicals. So it was able to hear the chomping and respond intelligently. So plants also cooperate. This is an example I love. This is in South Africa, there's a drought, still a drought, and these big, I think they're called kudus, they were dying. And scientists were trying to figure out why they were dying. They were not thirsting to death. And their bellies were full of acacia plant, which is their normal forage. And what it turned out is that the acacia plant was like, I don't know, 10, 100 times more tannic. They had the chemicals that the plant puts out to protect itself, tannic acids, they increased those tannins because they were being stressed out. Well, but not only did the plant increase its tannins, not only did the plant increase its tannins, but it sent out messages to other beings, the other acacia, and said, up your tannins. So they were all communicating with each other to respond. So here's an example of super smart tobacco plants. When they're being attacked by pests, they'll call out into the air the pests of their pests. And they're like, say, hey, bugs who eat these pests, come on over here, come eat this, here's some food. So, you know, our natural world is really super smart. I'm gonna skip that. And it turns out that plants have what are kind of brains, right? Even Darwin said that they have brains. And it turns out that plants have millions of these kind of sensing organs, and sometimes even in the billions if the plant is old and big enough. And each of like the root tips, they sense oxygen and hardness and nutrients, and they're sensing all these different things. And it's just one little root tip, but when you put it together with the billions, it actually has like a swarm intelligence. And all of these root tips are mediated by same chemicals that mediate our neurons. So GABA and serotonin. So like it's turning out that plants really have similar networks to process information and respond. And so, you know, and not only are the plants responding individually, but you guys have probably heard about the research about mycorrhizal fungus and all. I'm not going to go into this, we don't have time. And there's a lot of good research about it. But you know, fungus are like the largest organism on the planet. They can be hundreds of acres, and they're connecting everything. All of the mushrooms and the plants are connected into this network that's also being mediated by these same chemicals. So it's sort of like, if you look at a forest, it's really one organism. And I wanted to just talk just a little bit about the intelligence of viruses and the importance of viruses on our planet, because viruses are getting a bad rap now. But viruses are the most prolific organisms on the planet. They outnumber all the other species, all the other kinds of organisms by, all the other organisms put together don't equal to the amount of viruses. And if you put all the viruses together, they would weigh the equivalent of 75 million blue whales. They're really important. And one of the main things they do is they kill half the bacteria in the ocean every day. So they are really important in the cycling of carbon and oxygen in our oceans, in our planet, and create like our climate. So viruses are part of this big ecosystem with us. And I love this quote: "The whole encompasses the parts, and yet a larger whole encompasses the whole encompassing the parts. By enlarging our field of view, what is thought of the whole, in fact, is nothing more than one part of a larger whole, and yet another encloses this whole in concentric series that continues to infinity." So we are really like the bacteria in our bellies, they're a little part of our whole, and we are part of something else that's bigger. And we can tap into the power of our sentient responding earth. And, you know, in many ecosystems, they work together to control the elements. Like kelp in the ocean, when they get stressed out and low tides, they send up iodine and they seed clouds, and the clouds can come in. And then, you know, I worked with Bobby Lake Tom, who's a medicine man, who was a great teacher of mine. And he taught me, he's like, we know how to work with clouds. And he's like, we watch, I'm going to make that cloud disappear. Sure enough, he made it disappear. Right? So people we have this capacity to work with nature because we are nature. And I feel like seeing with new eyes is learning how to tap into this greater nature so we can inform how we take action. I think that's it. So yeah, so let's see, I can stop sharing my, there we go.